The Rise of the Woman of Apocalypse, as if by G.K. Chesterton. There is a strange and terrible truth that few men can stomach and even fewer understand. That what rises highest must first fall, and what seems strongest is often the most brittle. Our world, so fond of progress and parades, forgets this altogether. But the Church, in its strange wisdom, has never forgotten. We live in an age obsessed with the light. Searchlights, streetlights, and strobe lights blinding us in every corner of the world. But the secret strength of the Church has always lived in a prominent shade. That is the paradox that confounds both saints and sinners. There is no greater triumph than when all is lost. The seed of victory, of resurrection, is not sown in victory marches, but in the dark soil of death. Let me begin with a paradox that will make many uncomfortable. The Church has always had a wound at its center, not because it is wicked, but because it is made of men. It was not the bishops who built the great basilicas or sat in the grandest councils. No, no. Bishops do not build cathedrals. The poor and the saints do. It is the pauper, the marginalized, and the unknown man who builds cathedrals in his acts of devotion and sacrifice. Saints are not in power, but it is from them that all true power flows. And it is in this hidden corner, this place of seeming insignificance, that the Church is most itself. Consider, if you will, the oddity of kings who wear crowns of gold, while the King of Kings wore a crown of thorns. Or, better yet, the oddity of bishops robed in scarlet, while the Good Shepherd was chased from the synagogue and nearly flung from a cliff. The paradox of power is this: the more it is grasped, the less of it remains. The empire of Rome was never so weak as when it was clad in marble and marching under banners. It was strongest when it was clothed in rags, chased by lions, and trembling before Nero. So too, the Church is never so strong as when she appears to be at her weakest. The woman in the shadows, you see her, don't you? She is the Church, but not the one you see in Rome, not the one you recognize in the grand statements of councils or synods. She is that quiet force at the edge of nothing, barely noticed but always present. She is the Virgin, the Mother, the woman clothed in the sun. And it is she who holds the key to this whole affair. Men have always been too eager to point to the towering structures and the glittering thrones and say, "Here is the Church." But the Church, like the true woman, has always been in the hidden places. You will find her not in the palaces, but in the kitchens, not in the councils of the proud, but in the prayers of the humble. She is a paradox, wrapped in a riddle, both as old as Eve and as young as a virgin's song. And now, as the lights of the world grow ever brighter, blinding really, and as the great men of the Church sit in their dark chambers, wondering why the light eludes them, this woman rises, not with banners or trumpets, but with the quiet confidence of one who knows that to lose is to win, and to die is to live. For she has seen it all before. The story is as old as the hills. Men build empires, and then the empires fall. But it is the woman who survives. She is like the Blessed Virgin, and the Blessed Virgin, she. Her foot crushes the serpent underfoot, while the bishops fumble before the worldly rulers. It is a curious thing, but even the world's great errors are drawn, quite against their will, into God's pattern. The modern Church, in her folly, thinks herself terribly wise by offering up power to the people, decentralizing her authority, spreading it out among the masses, as if it were bread for the hungry. But, as is so often the case, this foolishness is but a foil for truth. What they intend for chaos may yet be the catalyst for a different kind of revolution. The Church of today, in her synods and councils, seeks to hand over power to the secular spirit, to loosen her grip on truth and yield it to the winds of modernity. But as she does, she unwittingly hands over the keys to those she thought to suppress. The woman rises, and she rises not from the seats of power, but from the pews. She is the faithful mother, the obedient daughter, the praying nun in her cloister. She does not ask for permission, for she has already been given the grace of God. The great men of the church will look one day and realize they have not led her, but followed her all along. In the end, the church is not a structure of stone or a system of governance. It is a living thing, a paradoxical thing, born of a cross and a resurrection, and most of all, born of a woman. The world may think it is clever in trying to reshape the church into its own image, but the woman in the shadows will laugh last. The church, in her weakness, will triumph as she always has, by being crushed, only to rise again. This is the deafening paradox, for it contains within itself both the seed of its destruction and its rebirth. And so the dark core of the church may yet persist for a time. But it is the woman at the margins, the hidden church, the faithful few, who will bear the real weight of holiness, and who, in the end, will rise with the dawn.